Welcome back to another episode of Not the Same, a podcast that brings you true stories of real people sharing their personal testimonies of transformation. I'm your host, Rachel Heimberg. As always, I want to say thank you to each and every person who continues to listen week after week. I'm so thankful for all my faithful followers. We are available just about everywhere, so pick your favorite app and keep listening, and also keep sharing with somebody who maybe hasn't heard of us yet. If you want to reach out to me with a comment or a suggestion, please do so through the dedicated podcast email, which is notthesame.cfm@gmail.com. Last week was very enjoyable. We had Euston Rendell in here, and she shared with us a very moving testimony of God's grace. And so this week, at her urging, I have asked her husband, Euston, to speak with me today. And I know even less than I did about her. And so I'm very excited to dive in. So first of all, Euston, I want to say thank you.
Thank you for having me, Sister Rachel, on this podcast. My name is Euston Rendell, and I'm the eldest of 4 children.
Okay.
So growing up, how do I put it now? Before I was a teenager, it was a bit hard on me because, my father would give me those responsibilities and always look after your family, So what they wanted somebody to do for them, I had to then do it. So it put a lot of strain on me, and I can say that also prepared me. I got...
Real quick, growing up, did you have both your parents at home?
Both my parents at home.
And did you grow up here in Joburg and Eldest?
Yes, in Joburg, yes.
Okay, different areas or?
We bounce around a lot, yes.
Okay.
So I think I lived with my granny when I was in grade 1. Went to grade 2, I moved to my parents.
Do you know
Still stayed by my granny because they didn't have a maid or something like that. And at that time, they were living in the CBD.
Okay.
And then because also we were close to the school, so I lived with my granny and my grandfather in Bosmont. Grade 2, they moved to Abbotswell because it wasn't so far from school. Then I had to learn this whole thing about going to school with public transport, So I had to take when my brother was now there, I had to take him to school as well.
Are you guys all close in age? You said you're the eldest of 4.
Yes.
So what's the...
So it's myself, then my sister right behind me. I'm a year older than her.
Okay.
And then my brother I'm 4 years older than him.
Okay.
My baby sister, we got 8 years difference.
Okay.
She wasn't around that time, so it was my baby brother. When he started preschool, I then had to now take him to school and learn all these things. So it put a lot of strain on me. And I would be so afraid because knowing if something would happen to him or my sister, it will be a problem.
So what was your home life in those early years before you get too much out of primary? What was the environment like growing up? I know right before we started recording, you mentioned your father was a bit of a hard man.
So my father worked all his life. He always did his best to provide for his family. But what I could see when I was younger, he couldn't keep a job. I would guess it is because my father was not a very straight and honest person, so he'd always do something on the sideline and then always get him in trouble at work.
Okay.
He used to drink a lot.
So with that kind of situation, did your mom work as well?
Yes, my mom worked all her life. When we were growing up, my father, he used to put his hands on my mother when he would come home from wherever he was. Then cops would come, and then they would have to move us from there, take us to my granny. He would come to my granny's place, perform there as well. Like fight with everybody. He's swearing he wants to take us with him. My grandfather, my granny don't want to allow us to go with him. And then when he'd be sober the next day, he wouldn't apologize. It's not him that says sorry because he feels that he didn't do anything wrong.
Wow.
So.
And so your mom, would she fight back or was it?
Just wanted to protect us.
Okay.
She closed the room. I don't know what would happen. All I heard banging around and things like that.
Did he ever put his hands on you guys as well?
Me a lot.
Yeah.
But not physically until I was a certain age. I used to get hiding for everything. I don't know, it's I was a problem. I asked once, was I adopted or anything? Because I'm the only one to get hiding in this house. And he'd always say to me, you're the eldest, I want you to know better. Since I got saved now, if I look back at my life, if I just listened to my father, I think my life could have turned out much better because I always thought, no man, what can he teach me? Because, he works for a boss. He doesn't have like what the street can offer you and all those things. There was a time, I remember me turning 12 years old. My father wasn't there. He was locked up. And I asked my mother, I said, why is daddy locked up? And she said to me, your father is locked up because he did something for the family. Well, like what? So she didn't want to speak to me until he got out of prison. And I asked him there, why were you locked up? And he says to me, he took something that wasn't his to give us a better life. And so he was locked up for about 2 months.
Okay.
He was suspended from work, and then the case was dismissed.
So you said he was a drinker, but when he was sober, you guys were his life,
Yes.
his family.
Yes.
And it was just the alcohol that made him
a different person,
Yeah.
yes. I could say I get my temper problem from him because now I'm this type of person, but if I would drink and you say the slightest thing and then I'll take it in a miss,
Yeah.
a blow a gasket. So, but it wasn't always that bad. There was really some nice times with the family. My father would always have his friends, his family come over because there was a time when he always had money. And I would say this is a time when I started experimenting with alcohol, I think around the age of 13 years old.
Was that because it was available?
Yeah, because it was always at home. And they were drinking, they wouldn't worry what the children is doing. Then I realized, but he can't smell me that I'm smelling of alcohol. My mother didn't like alcohol, but I don't know, maybe she kept it a secret. I don't know. People always said she had a soft spot for me.
Probably because you took the brunt from your father.
I think so,
See
yes.
that often.
And then the drinking of the alcohol led me to become a very disrespectful person because I was always big about. I'm not that small like a 13-year-old should be. So my friends was always much older, 4 or 5 years older than what I was. But if you look at our bodies, you will say I'm the eldest. So I was in the street, drinking, performing. Then I developed this thing for fighting. Like I got addicted to this adrenaline that I got from that. From the age of 13, it went on until I met Sheen when I was 17 years old.
Was that at school as well?
Yes. There was a time when my father had to come into school because I had stabbed another boy in his wrist. I cut him from here right down here. My father had to pay for his medical bills and those things. I was always in a fight. Blue eyes. Once I broke a kid's nose, and then weekends it used to be worse because now I used to be in the streets Friday, Saturday, drinking and performing.
So when that would happen, did the police ever get involved?
My mother took me to a social worker once, like to try to speak to see what is bothering me, but I can't say they are because I only went once there.
Yeah.
And then.
Did you ever get kicked out of schools?
Like expelled? No.
I know the bar is set a little higher in South Africa. They just expect kids to fight.
Yes,
and
so I'll
stab
be
each other,
always
but
suspended.
yeah.
Or there's times when I was suspended and I wouldn't even tell them. I would go to school or I'll bunk school. There was a year, I won't forget, I was standard 7. I bunked the whole year. I just went to write finals and I passed.
I've heard that it was a little different then. You could sit for finals.
Yeah.
And it was still fine if you passed. Now it's like a big deal.
Yeah, now it's a big thing. You haven't been attending and all that.
So you bunked the whole year?
Yeah. I think in that year, I went to school about 15 days. I would say it was too much.
Wow.
My father even started, why isn't Euston at school? And my father was working for a company called RAM that time, so he was doing deliveries. One day pitched up to the school, he's like, I'm here to see my son, Euston Rendell. And they're like, what grade? He tell him standard 7, what class? He's not here. So he phones my mom, he's like, where did you drop Euston? No, I dropped Euston at the gate. So I went home the afternoon, like normal, like I come from school. He gets home like usually around 5:30. How was your day at school? No, the day was fine at school either. You do anything interesting? I said, no. Why? Why are you so? He said, oh, it's funny. I was at your school today and you were not at school.
Wow.
I said, I must have been out of class. He said, don't talk that with me. And obviously got hiding. I got grounded and things, but I didn't care about it. And he would make it a habit to go to school. And eventually he found out, but Euston, you haven't been at school this whole year, basically. Why don't you just go and repeat a grade next year? I said, I can pass. I don't need to be in the class. He said, oh, you that clever? I said, I'll show you a pass. So I went to school. I did the finals. I passed.
You passed. So you were that clever.
So things like that used to give me like ego or something.
What did you do the whole year? Where would you go?
I would be with friends.
Just on the streets?
Yeah, just on the streets.
You say alcohol. Did you get involved in smoking or any kind of other drugs at that time?
I didn't smoke cigarettes until I dropped out of school.
Okay.
Yeah. There was just something about in school smoking. I didn't like it, but I used to drink a lot. I used to start on a Thursday and then like drink until I have to go to school on a Monday. And I would come into the house on a Monday morning when my parents is going to work.
Wow. And would they try to bring you home? Were they just kids are kids?
Could say my mother always knew where I was.
Okay.
Yeah, and she'd always tell me, if you get into a problem, please phone me immediately. So I guess in a way that was the soft spot. She always covered up for me. My father, he didn't want to hear anything. Like, if I needed something, my mother would always bite for me and say, don't tell your father.
Yeah.
And if I said, I need a techie or something, he'd say to me, how much does it cost? I said, maybe 1,000. And he said, what do I get? I said, what do you mean? He says, you got to work for it. I said, I got to work for it there, but there's things that you did, you didn't work for it. And then I'll go to my mother would buy it, but now she'll hide from my father, say, you got it from your uncle or your auntie. So these people is not around because I already had now the reputation in the street for always fighting and things like that. I kind of liked it because there was people that were afraid of me, people feared me. I said, no, I like this.
Yeah.
They didn't even want me like at parties, at weddings, even funerals. At that young age, I don't get invited.
Wow. And so young.
Yes, at the age of 15.
Wow.
There was a bunch of friends of mine that we hung out with, and I realized that, these guys, we always drinking, where do the money come from? And they're like, come with us, then you see. We rob the people that go to college and all those things.
What would you do? Like with weapons, with threats of weapons?
So I never liked weapons. You can stab someone in the wrong place, you could kill them, a gun, you can kill somebody. So because of me being so big and with the power I knew I had, I would just put my hands on you, and then my friends would go into your pockets and just leave you like that. No harm done to you, anything. So that used to be my thing.
Just intimidation and pickpocket stuff. And you said you do this around the university kids or college kids?
Yeah, and they would obviously be much older than what I am, but because of my body size, they would think that big guy.
For the record, how tall are you right now?
I'm not sure how tall I am.
2 meters at least, right? Right around there.
I think so.
Yeah, okay. That's for our listeners. He's quite big.
I think so, yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, all these things, it made me become I had a bad ego and all these things. I always thought the best of myself. People used to phone my mother and my father and tell them, Euston is up to his things again. If you don't do something with a child is going to either be dead by the age of 21 or you all will lose him to prison life.
Yeah.
Plus, always my father's fear. I remember I had my eldest daughter at a young age, at 16. I came home one day and I seen that they had a party there by their place, and she was just born. So I went over there and I got into an argument with the father. By then I had a small pocket knife like this in my pocket on my keys. I don't know what went through my mind. I took that small knife out and I remember stabbing him 7 times in his head. Mother came and she tried to stop whatever was happening, but I was so full of rage. I pushed her once, and as I pushed her, she fell and she cut her head by the door handle.
Wow.
The uncles and the people that was all over party, I fought with everybody. So my mother ran over with my father. That's the first time the cops got involved.
Okay. And how old were you? 16?
I think I was 16 at that time, yes.
Let me backtrack just a little bit. Did you meet your daughter's mother in school? Was it a school friend or just in the neighborhoods? Or
my father lives in a complex, so these people had moved in.
Okay, so you met
my sister's friend.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old was she?
She was 15 at the time.
Okay. I know I met your daughter. What's her name?
Lemise.
And so she's just been born, and now this whole fight is happening.
This whole fight.
And you're fighting everyone, and now the cops are here.
My uncle was living with us at the time. I remember him saying to my father, Kevin, we need to dress, we need to go with us. Like, for what? He says, it's so small, but you can't really be locked up. I could see my father's eyes, the fear. He didn't know what's going to happen. This lady had to be rushed with the ambulance.
And your dad's already been,
yes,
referencing what you said before, being in jail for those 2 months. Now he's probably thinking, my son.
Yeah, that's why I carry a different surname, because when I was also born, he wasn't around, he was locked up. And they were not married at that time.
What is your father's last name?
August, like the month, yes.
Okay. I didn't realize that Rendell was your mom's name.
Yes, my mom's name.
Okay.
So cops got involved that night, and my mother was crying to them. And the cops said, this boy, we don't believe he's that age because look how big he is. And my mom said, he doesn't even have an ID yet. And they said, but he did all that to grown people. It's a problem. And they said they'll take me to the police station. And then my parents should come to the police station. Then they will sign me out to my parents, like under parents' guidance or something like that.
Is it something like a house arrest?
Yes.
Okay.
But the year as they don't come and make sure you're at home and all those things, So
they just sign you out.
yes.
Yeah.
So I think that was a Friday or a Saturday. So obviously the Monday I had to appear in court. The cop then he phoned my father. He said, no, don't take him to court. I'll come and fetch him from the house, the investigating officer. For him being so young, I'll come and fetch him, but I won't let him go through the basement alone. I will be with him all the way. So
how does it work? Like, do the other people press charges, or does it just become like the government gets involved?
because of my daughter's granny that I pushed and she was under influence, she was insisting that I hit her that way. And even the cops asked her, how does he hit you with his bands for you to have like a slice right across your forehead? So she pressed charges.
Okay.
Now I'm in big trouble, standing with that kind of a case now.
Yeah.
16 years old in front of a judge, and she's a female. So she thought, now you can do this to women.
Yeah.
And she said, no, your son needs to be locked up and been taken away from society because he's not a people's person. A normal teenager this age does not do things he does. I mean, for a whole family to be assaulted by this boy, it's not a normal thing. And she said, I want you to go and apply for his ID and do all those things. In that, I can remember once a week I used to go to court on a Tuesday, but eventually I could say like after 3 months, it was just a thing of, man, I'm just going to court again tomorrow. And I started again with my nonsense.
So were you trying to behave in those?
Yeah, because now I see this thing, it's a serious thing. And I guess I was one of the lucky ones because at the same court that I was appearing in, there were children that did smaller crimes, but it got sent to juvenile.
Wow.
But as the judge said, she didn't want to send me to a juvenile prison because I would be in charge of the juvenile prison, because if I can do this to big people, what am I going to do to small children? So my father would always say he think that judge was keeping me on a leash until I would turn the appropriate age then to send me away.
Yeah, probably they realize he's going to be back.
Yeah. So like I said, after that 3 months, I started my nonsense again. Then experimenting came with popping of pills. When we used to drink like over a weekend, I had this other bunch of guys that they always had pills, and we start popping these pills and things. That went on, then the robbery started happening. But then I started getting locked up. And I would always phone my mother and say, Mom, I'm locked up. And she said, Euston, you're lucky it's a weekend. If you get to the courts on Monday and they see, you remember you still got this big case going on. So I'll make a plan, Euston. I need to speak to your father. And I would always say, I don't want to yet. I don't want to yet. But eventually they will come.
But they still came in.
Yeah, we'll pay whoever we need to pay, by whatever docket we need to buy. I'll be out again. For that week again, I'll be on best behavior. Next week, I do the same thing.
Wow.
And this is when the time when my father also left the alcohol for 7 years.
Wow.
But he was a very strict person. So when I would come home from performing like that in the streets and stuff, now I know that it was my fault, and I would always pick a fight with him because I had this anger. I don't know why I had this anger. I always thought I go through what I go through is because of my father,
Yeah.
And me and him would fight and fight, and it was just not a nice thing in the house. I think it was last year, my baby sister, she said, Puta, I'm so proud of you. And she started crying. I said, why are you crying? She said, if I think about the guy you are now and the person you were, when you used to come home into this house, we used to cry and we all get into one room because we knew that you and daddy's going to fight. And we would fight so bad that we break the stuff in the house.
Would you physically fight, like punch each other?
Physically hit each other, because now we're the same height. He always told me, you never lose in a fight, no matter how big the guy is. So I took always that, And eventually he got the idea and all these things, and my father always telling me, Euston, things is going to happen to you, and then I'm not going to be there, or your mother's not going to be there, and where you going to go to? Yeah, my friends and all those things. And he asked me, he said, where's your friends? You attending court. Did any of your friends ever come to me and your mother and ask, do we need help or anything? And at that time, my friends are working, they're driving cars, they're working in banks and stuff like that. And my father always told me, your friends buy you all those things that I don't know what are you on, and this alcohol that you drink like this because they are afraid of you. They use you as protection. So I didn't want to hear all the things. And then eventually I went to court, and the judge said to me, final appearance tomorrow. Tomorrow we determine, do we lock you up? Or we'll see what happens.
Wow.
So I went home, I was very stressed. And my mother said to me, just leave it in God's hands, don't stress, and we'll see what happens. My mother was never a person to go to church, but she always did read the Bible and always prayed. So Thursday came, went to court. So the judge asked me, what must she do with me? I said, please give me a second chance. And she said, the problem is, I'm scared if I give you a second chance that you might appear in front of me and doing something worse than what you did. Because when your mother speaks and all those things, they always speak about your anger. And you're a person that when you snap, you do things that you don't register,
Yeah.
I said, okay. That day, she wanted to sentence me to 5 years.
Wow. And were you 18 yet or no?
I didn't even turn 17 yet.
Wow.
I was still on my way to turn 17, and she said she wanted to sentence me to 5 years in prison in a maximum facility with adults. I am tried as an adult, not as a kid. I can remember when I looked at my mother, tears was rolling down her eyes. I looked at my father and he looked away. And they said to me, you're either going to spend 5 years in prison or we give you a 5-year suspended sentence with a 5,000 rand fine. I'm thinking to myself, what is these people speaking? I don't understand this language. And I remember the cop coming to me and say, Euston, stand down out of the box. As I want to go to my parents, he grabbed me and said, no, go into the basement. I'm scared now because I don't know what kind of guys am I going to meet downstairs. So I come into the cell and I look around and I see these guys performing and doing their things. So they speak in Afrikaans. So I come into the cell and I look at everybody. And I don't wear glasses at that time. So a lot of people say to me, you got a very evil stare if you don't wear glasses. So I look at them and I go and sit in a corner. So now they're all looking at me, but nobody say nothing. So I got the wall against my back. So I said, okay, the first one that comes to me, I'm going to pop him. And I'm thinking to myself, Euston, this is now it. This is the day you're going to be sent away. You're going to come out. Your daughter's going to be 5 years old already, or 6 maybe. I've always heard about this thing called further charges. So you with your hot head and your temper problem, you're not going to do 5 years. All these things is, why couldn't I just reverse the time? And now you start praying to God, please help me out of a situation. He answered my prayer. So as we getting ready now to get into the big van to bring you to Sun City Prison, they call my name. They say, Rendell. And I'm like, yes, out of the line. He says, no, you're going home.
Wow.
Came upstairs and my mother sitting in the courtroom and she was still crying. She said, where's Dad? She said, you will speak to your father yourself. And he was in the car waiting for me. And I said, there was happening. And he just looked at me once and he said, get in the car. And we left. I think after 2 weeks, he told me, he says, you know what happened? Somebody spoke to him. Nobody was around him, but somebody spoke to him and said, take this boy out because if he gets locked up, it's going to be too late for him.
Wow.
He found a cousin of his that he didn't speak to in about 10 years. There's a problem, my son. Either we save him here or he's going to get locked up. And this cousin of his borrowed him the 5,000 rand to pay the fine.
Wow.
I asked him, I said, why did you do it? He says, you know what? I don't want to lose you. We're losing you to the street here. If you get used to prison life, then we will definitely lose you. So I've tried to avoid the friends and things.
I was going to say, did it change you?
Yes, I put this guy through all of us. Because he always used to tell me, I'm done with you. I'm done with you. Next time cops come here, I'm done with you. Because in that 3 months, as I said, every week he's caught, I just didn't worry. And the cops would even come fetch me at home. So it now became a normal thing.
Yeah.
My father said to me, Euston, all I want for you is the best in the world. I don't want you to be a bum on the street.
Yeah.
You just started standard 18, you're dropping out of school. You got a daughter. What you going to do? I said, obviously I need to get a job. He said, okay. He was a manager at the control room, a security company. So he said, I will speak to the boss, then we'll give you a job there. So I said, okay, no problem. So I dropped out of school and went to work in this field.
So you dropped out of standard?
It will be standard 8.
So that's like grade 10?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I said to myself, you know what? I don't want people just to look at me like, you dropped out of school, you got a child. I want people to see me for something else now. But now I still got people look at me, I'm this aggressive person, I'm disrespectful, rude. I didn't care about nobody and nothing. If it didn't benefit Euston, then no.
Okay.
So my mother said to me, why don't you buy yourself a car? I said, I'm going to buy myself a car. She said, okay, I tell you what, let's make a deal. If you can bring me 8,000 rand at the end of the year, then I'll take that 8,000 rand and go and finance you a car. So I said, okay, let's do it. So I did that and then bought the car. And that's how I met Sheen. Because a friend of mine was dating a sister and he asked me, please give me a lift home. So I said, okay, no, cool. So I still remember drinking the Sunday, after lunch now I'm busy washing the car and he comes to me, he's like, you still gonna give me a lift? I said, I totally forgot about you because I told him about 2 weeks ago. So I go into the house, I ask my father, I said, I need to take Grayton to Eldest. I promised him I'll give him a lift, but now I only got a learners. So he's like, so you need me to go with you? I said, please. So he's like, okay, now let's go. So we come to Eldest. This girl is telling me that she got a sister for me. I'm thinking, in Eldest? I don't know how Eldest look. I'm picturing in my mind, there's fences and, broken houses. I'm thinking, yes, you got a sister for me in Eldest. So I remember turning down the street where we live in today. And she says to me, there were the gates that's open. I said, there's big gates that are open. And I see this house got a double garage and everything. I say, yo, don't judge a book by its cover. And they get out of a car, I get out of a car. So my father's walking in front of me. And now she told her sister that she's going to bring a guy for the sister. But now my father was walking in front of me. So what happened when she saw us come in, she looked at my father first and She always says, I thought, this old guy for me. And then I see you behind your father.
Oh, poor Sheen.
So I met her mother that Sunday. We had a small conversation there. Then I left. And as I came out of the house, I turned around and I looked. It was a Sunday evening. She was doing homework. My father asked me, why are you staying there, girl? I said, you see that girl there? It's going to be my future wife. He said, you don't even know her. I said, that's going to be my wife. I'm telling you now.
Wow. I love this because Sheen did say this the last time. And it's just great to hear this other perspective.
When we like hanging out and he looks at Shin and he'll always say, do you know how these two met?
Yeah.
You know? Then I started dating her, but obviously we had to keep it a secret because of Sheen's father and also his reputation that he had. Her mother was very afraid.
So she's this good girl who's doing homework on a Sunday night, but she has a bit of a notorious father.
Yes.
And then you are the bad boy who, I mean, your father was trying to keep you on the straight and narrow.
Yes, and the ironic part is our fathers know each other from the same location. So I don't know if she told you what her father used to do. When my father met my mother, he also used to indulge in narcotics. So he got it from the other party. He used to supply those things.
Okay.
So that's how they knew each other. So my mother said to me one day, because I brought Sheen for lunch, and she said, you're not going to spoil this child's life. This child has got a future on her. She wants to do something with her life.
Yeah.
You're not going to come and distract this child. And I said, okay, ma, okay. Then Sheen got me to come to church now. So now my mother was very happy. If they wanted me, they would phone tracker and where's the car? At number 3 Patricia Brothers Eldorado Park. Okay, now he's there by Sheen's place. So I can say Sheen kept me out of the streets for a long time. But obviously, you know, we do sneaky things. So when I go home, then I'll go and drink with the boys, get into trouble again for my mother. But I thought you were by Sheen. But I left by Sheen. And then one thing led to another. It went on like that for a couple of months. Even when I come from a nightclub, I'd go straight home, I'd wash it, because Sheen would tell me, you're off today, I want you in church. So I go to church and I'm sitting there and the alcohol is coming on my skin and I'm feeling like everybody's looking at me in the church. And I always say, why did your mother go tell the pastor what I did again? And she said, why? I said, because everything this pastor is speaking is things that I do.
Wow.
But I always blame my mother. I said, your mother is a member of a church. Your mother's telling this pastor, I'm coming to church now, you must stop all those things now. Like he's directly speaking to me. That was 2006. Eventually, me and her father, we had like a misunderstanding where one day I pulled up to his shop. All I wanted to do is buy cigarettes. These guys jumped out of my car and then a BMW pulled up behind my car. These guys got out of the car and they had some words with some people there in Westbury. He didn't say anything to me at the time, but when I left, he phoned Sheen and he says, your boyfriend was now here. He's lekker hot with a group of guys and they had now performed there outside my shop. And you see, it's things like this that I don't want you to be exposed to.
Which is interesting because that was his lifestyle.
Yeah.
And he was trying so hard to protect your butt.
And I was honest to them. I did tell him about my kid. He said to Sheen, I don't want this boy to pregnate you and leave you like he did, the baby's mother. I then had to go to my parents, speak to them to go to him. And then he said, okay, let him come and apologize to me. So I went and apologized to him. Then he told me, you know, all those things that I'm doing, and it's not life, you know. And I'm looking at him now. I know what he does. I'm like, oh, you're telling me why you want to block me from also being so successful and things. But I'm not thinking about what they protecting a person like me from. So I think it was 2007. I don't know if she told you that when she left home.
Yeah.
Yes, so I don't know, there was a time when she was pregnant. I don't know how I missed it, but she had a miscarriage. She came home. I don't even think she was at home like for 2 months, and then she phoned me again. She said she can't, she needs to leave. And I remember my mother and father separating. They divorced in 2007.
What led to that?
Honestly speaking, my mother thought she'd have a better life without my father. I mean, yeah, he is all the things he did.
Yeah.
You know, to provide for family, to keep the family together. And
she was just tired of it and thought it would be better if she left.
Yes, she thought no, that there would be a better life out there. So she then moved to Florida. So I fetched Sheen. We went to Florida. I'm not even sure how many months. And then Sheen's father and started speaking. And then one day she's telling me, no, when you go to Daisha, my father comes and sits by me now and then. I said, oh, really?
Is this when she's pregnant with Vivian?
Yes. Now I'm saying to myself, hey, I want to now marry this woman, but I'm not that type of person that's going to go and ask for hand in marriage, you know. How do you even start something like that? I said, okay, you and your parents, everything is now nice, you know, everything is we need to do the right thing. I don't want my son to carry a different surname. He's going to carry my surname.
Okay, so that makes sense now, knowing your story, how you probably always wanted your dad's surname, I would imagine, when you were young.
Yes, I did want it, yes.
Yeah.
And we got married. Before I got married, actually, there was a time I wanted to share this with you, Sister Rachel. Before we got married, my father and my mother was already divorced. Me and my father had a very bad fight at home. So it's only myself, Sheen, and my father that speaks about us. Even my sisters, they don't speak about it. We got into such a bad of a fight. We were smashing the house, and I don't know what came over me that evening. I went upstairs. I took his key out of his jacket pocket. I opened his safe. I took his firearm. I went downstairs and I started shooting at him.
Wow.
The very next day, I couldn't even look at him in his eyes. I could just imagine what pain he's feeling. My son here, but he tried to kill me last night, My sisters, they had to go to my mother's place because they didn't want to even be around me. I did not know which way to go. And I remember speaking to Sheen, and Sheen also said to me, you need to pray and you need to ask God to change your life. I mean, it was after I got saved that I went to my father and I asked him to forgive me for that, because that ate me a lot inside. And it made me to become another person, even towards my children. In the years after we got married, and I still kept that hurt, that what I did to this man, and I took it out on them, I took it out on Sheen. So anyway, like I say, we got married. Things was now looking up for us. In 2010, the 16th of June, we decided to move to El Park to Sheen's mom. Because at that time, my mother had now left her second husband, and me and this guy was not seen too well, eye to eye. Also, my father was involved. We became now just best of friends up until today. Moved to El Dorado Park. I worked on, I worked off. She started a job. She kept that job for 9 years going. How can I say? I never got like a job that paid me a decent salary or things. So I would do what my father did.
Okay.
And then get caught and get fired from work and things like that. So.
Do you mean like causing trouble or stealing stuff?
Yeah, but I would do it in such a way that I don't get convicted. We don't get cops involved. And I can remember even like when I wasn't working, group of my friends here in Extension 3. So I used to be their driver. So I used to take them places and then they would rob the shop or do whatever. So they asked me, Euston, you're not working, don't you want to get back in the game? And I said, no, man, I got sons here. We get locked up now. And people speak here outside. They say, his wife must go to work and he just sits at home. And you want me to go into the street to sit on the shop's corners and to expose my children in all these things now. And I remember my friend saying, why don't you just come and you can make money? I'm thinking, yeah, make money, but if I end up in a problem, Sheen's mother's going to put me out. Then my children grow up without the father. I'm thinking all these things now. I'm saying to myself, it will be nice so if I can help my wife. So 2012, I decided, okay, let me try the tow trucking job. But now, you come to a scene and there's a radio of a car in around or something, you grab it if nobody's seen, you try to make something.
On the side, yeah.
Didn't work out back at home. So I speak to my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law's also involved with the illegal thing. So he says, okay, now I'll help you out. I'm going to start now a shop with those things. And it goes like for 2 weeks and I think to myself, no, man, I can't now live like this because it's not by my place here. People is come look for me odd hours of the evening. One and one is going to put together here and they're going to find out. So I leave that now. I say, no, not that. If I can just get a job. So I get a courier job, delivering like food parcels to schools and prisons and things. So I'm doing this job, and now this job is also paying me next to nothing. Because after deductions, I just got money like to go to work. That's it.
Yeah.
So I get involved with the wrong people at work now. We're busy taking the food parcels and things, selling it. Eventually that one, I left there because my PDP expired. Fell around. Went back to towing when Peyton was born in 2016, I think. Tried towing again. It didn't work out for me.
During this whole time when you're up and down with the jobs, are you still drinking?
Still drinking.
Any drugs?
I started, I think it was 2017 again.
Okay.
So, but the drinking thing, I used to go like to my father every month end. And then we would be there by his place like for a weekend and we would drink. I never drank at home because I didn't want to disrespect Sheen's mom like that. Because I know what a person I become. 2017, he started now experimenting with something called cat. I started experimenting with this thing because now it kept me awake.
Okay.
So I wouldn't get drunk. People would say, you said you're drinking since Friday, it's Sunday. You never slept, but you're still sober. But I didn't see that it doesn't make you eat, your body, your pigmentation changes, all these things. It first became a secret thing. As years went on, I just didn't care anymore until I think I started a job in 2020 or 2021. I'm not sure. But I remember it was after COVID. And this is when things really got now again out of hand for me, because those job that I used to do was, I was like a building manager. I used to make sure people pay their rent and they must pay their bills on time. So I come and I threaten you that, you're behind with your rent. I'm going to switch off your lights now. And they say, but caretaker, here's something. So it went from 150 to 200. Then I said, no, I don't take anything less than 300.
Like as a bribe.
A bribe, yeah. So now I'm doing all those bribes. Now I decide, I got all these buildings. My boss don't come and see the buildings. I can hire some of those units out for myself.
Wow.
So now I'm doing all these things now. I'm putting tenants in places now. The rent is $4,000. I say, you pay me $2,000. But problem is, never ever go to the office and go and speak about anything that needs to be fixed or replaced.
They're getting a good deal.
Yes.
They're below
they're below average.
So now you're scamming the books.
Scamming out those things. Every day I've got money. I started drinking every day. Substance abusing every day. Started neglecting my children.
Yeah.
It got so bad that these children was, the time when we moved from Extension 3 to Extension 7, they would play around, I think, outside until 12 o'clock at night. I wouldn't care what is going on. And then eventually they let me go at work. But now I said to myself, wait till now. Because at that time, when me and Sheen's mother had that big outfall, I said some things that I know was very wrong for me to say.
Yeah.
And I didn't have no more the money. When I had all that lifestyle, I had my father, my friends, my sisters would phone me, and Sheen would like, you just giving money away. I said, no, they need it. Well, family got split up. I had to send Tyler and Fabian to come and stay with Sheen's mom. It was only Peyton at the time. Sheen's mom didn't want me at the house there. So I had this friend opposite the neighbor. He said to me, you shouldn't sleep here, man. I said, no, man. You have your own problems here. And I know if I must stay here, we're still going to be indulging in the substance and all those things. No, man. So I went to my father, but now I could see even, the way they treat me and the way they're speaking to me. I said, yo, where's this coming from? Because now I don't have money now, no more. I don't have a car now, no more. The job is not there. Now it's how long you're going to be here. And, things, cost of living is high, I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I come to Sheen this one day. Sheen says, okay, let's go and book a B&B. I said, okay. What happens after the B&B? Now I'm sitting there in this B&B. That place is so dodgy. They don't even have lights in the room there or in the shower. And I'm sitting and I'm drinking this beer. And I think the phone's light was reflecting off because I'm playing music. And the tears are running. And I said to Sheen, our life is over now. Look where we are. And this is all because of me. It's my negligence, I said, I thought I was on top of the world.
Yeah.
And she says to me, maybe there's one way. I said, what's that? And she said, we need to get Christ involved in our life. Yeah. And I just looked at her. I said, Christ involved in our lives. Now, I remember like whenever I used to be in a problem or something, like I said earlier on, I used to pray. And I always used to come out of everything. So there was always the belief of Christ, but growing up Catholic and we have a totally different perspective of what the Bible and God and all this thing is, because there you're more into religion there.
Yeah.
As you know, when I came, I had that big rosary on. So for me, that was now my... Yeah. The next day I said to her, where are we going to? She says, let's go to Ashley, eldest sister's eldest daughter. Okay. I think we stayed there for 2 weeks, but it was the most miserable 2 weeks of my life. In that house, the people are in and out in their substance abusing. If I had to go to sleep, I must put my deck is right next to the bed. You must set traps so if somebody comes in that you can hear, Can't live like this. I said to Sheen, you know what, you go back to your mother. I'm going to see where I go to. Sheen says, no, we're not going to live like that. Let me speak to my mother. She spoke to her mother. Her mother did tell me, Euston, I don't want you here because of the person that you are. You're going to stop this drinking and you're going to stop with this drugs. I said, no, I'm going to do that. I promise you. We moved back 2022. Yeah. Yes, 16 June 2022. So now I'm irritated. I'm irritable. My friends live opposite. They keep on coming. Euston, let's go here, let's go there. Substance in the privacy, I'm shaking, but now I made a woman a promise. I'm not keeping up to the promise. Look where we are now. We have to wait for a grant, to survive and all those things. I'm just getting miserable. Me and Sheen is fighting every day. I phone my father and I just start fighting at him. He asked me one day, he says, Euston, you're phoning me and you're fighting with me. What did I do you? He says, you need to check yourself, boy, because if you're doing those things at home, your wife is going to leave you. I don't know which way to turn now. So one day I'm in the kitchen, she is busy, also in the kitchen. And then she goes out of the kitchen, she goes into our room, and she comes back and she's like, I want to go to church. I look at her so much. She said, I want to go to see this. And I'm like, what's that? She showed me the flyer. I say, church. And she puts the flyer down, and I take the thing, and I'm now reading this, I see revival, Roman courtiers, twice dead. I say, who's this guy? You die once and then that's it, boss. Now, man, that's the guy that twice and he's got 9 lives or what? It's like, you know what? I'm reading ex-gang member, you know, all those drug abuse and he's a Mexican. Okay, you know how these Mexican movies is. I said, that's going to be interesting. The day when his church had to begin now, I'm there. She said, wait. I said, I'm going to church. And she smiles. I said, I need to go and hear that guy's story. I think it was a Wednesday evening that we walked in, or Tuesday, I'm not 100% sure. You know, at the time, I walked through the church and everyone's greeting, and I'm like, why is church problem now again? These people are too friendly. And we're going to go sit right at the back there. Roman starts speaking, and everything he's speaking making no sense now. And I look at his mother, I say, she don't know anyone in this church. So she didn't speak anything yet to anyone in this church. How does this guy know everything that I'm going through? I said the next day, no, I need to go and hear what is happening. I need to hear this testimony, finish of him, you know. And she got so excited for me. She said, why, babe? I say, you know what? Everything Roman is speaking. I either was there or I'm going through it now.
Yeah.
You know, when he did that altar call and when I responded, I felt the whole weight fall off my shoulders, like you're by the right place now, Euston. And, you know, it's like God said, you here now, you're home. I'm not going to leave you now. I remember Roman telling me that when he gave me the word. He said, you are home now, and it's not going to be the same anymore.
I remember that now that you say that.
And I said to myself, wow. That day when I said, now I'm going to get baptized, I phoned my father. I said, I'm getting baptized, but I need to come see you. He was so excited. He said, why? I went there. I said, we're getting baptized, but before I baptize, I want to come and I want to say something to you. He said, what's wrong? I said, I am sorry for everything I did in my life, you know, that hurt you or mommy. I want to ask for forgiveness. And he started crying. He said, what's wrong with you? I said, it's not me. This is the new person that I want to become. And ever since that day, I never looked back. Every day I look at myself in the mirror and I picture the old Euston. And I say, never again. I know what is in the future and what is in store for me. And there's something that I try to imprint in my children every day. I know life is hard.
Yeah.
But there is a better way. If you just believe, make God the center of your life, and you'll see him do the great work in you. And today, everyone that sees me, even my father, he would always say, my son, I'm so proud of you. And I would say, you know, Dad, thank you. That's why when people say to me, yes, look how nice you are, look at your family, everything is shining. I say, you know what, it's not only us, it's God, because he's the only one that made us possible for us.
Absolutely.
Because nobody that I know could have helped me enough. I mean, you know, I thank God for this church. I thank God for you all being here the time we walked through these doors. I thank him for bringing Daryl and Joanne into our lives. Pastor Shannon, you know, people like Mike Burrell, they'll always be in my heart.
It's exciting. One of the reasons that I so enjoy doing this is, even for me, hearing somebody else's testimony, I'm reminded of how much God cares. Even the simple fact where, you know, your parents weren't saved, but God put those words in your dad's ear, because we know now God had a plan for you. But at the time, your dad's like, I don't know. I just felt like, no, we need to not let you go.
From going to prison, yes.
And, you know, those things that God cares so much that even in the dark moments, even looking back, you don't see it until now. And you think, God spared me for this.
For this, yes.
One thing I mentioned with Sheen last time when we recorded was, as a mother, it was difficult for her thinking the years that we missed. And God redeems the time. They know, they have a reference point. This is who my parents used to be. And look at them now. They have this incredible thing now. And, you know, and then we talked about Paige, how she's a product of your new life. This
miracle baby.
Yeah, this miracle baby. And she's never going to have that. And she's going to hear stories and be like, no way, my parents. You know, I mean, you're an usher, you're involved in ministry, she's in ministry. You guys are such a blessing to this church. And I remember,
when I look back now and I say, if it wasn't for this church, I don't know where I would be. I know for a fact I was going to get divorced. I don't know where my children would be. I don't know where I would be.
That is so good. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing with me today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you listening. Without a listener, the story can't be heard. If you enjoyed this episode or any other episode, please share it with somebody. Like we've heard today, people can be changed by your testimony. Don't underestimate the power of a transformed life. Last of all, if you are not a Christian, or maybe you were but have since backslidden and you want this for yourself, just acknowledge your sin, acknowledge who paid the price for that sin, ask him to come in your heart, and Jesus will do what he did for Euston.
Amen.
Until next time, this is Rachel Heimberg, and you've been listening to Not the Same.